Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.
New week upon us. Welcome, everybody, to Wager Talk Today. Teddy covers me, Lawrence Presman. Excited about this entire week, Teddy. NFL draft, we're going to talk about that a couple of times this week. Andy Lang tomorrow, and Matt Joseph will be on as well. And we got the Derby coming up. We got basketball, hockey, baseball, and, of course, you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right, Prez. But yeah, it's funny because a lot of times, many years, as we get into, late April into May, the sports schedule, we get into the postseasons, but it's not one of the busier times of the year. But this year with the NFL draft pushback, obviously with the Kentucky Derby this weekend, and then NHL, MLB, NBA. I mean, it's loaded right through May, man. I'm excited about what's on tap for sports bettors, and hopefully we'll be able to give you guys some good info over the course of the next 45 minutes or so.
Man, I mean, have you ever been a horse bettor? It's something I've done. I've gone to the tracks. My biggest winning bet of all time was a bet I made watching the horses because I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and it ended up winning. But it's not my thing. It's just not my thing.
So they call the Kentucky Derby the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. And I don't know that I disagree with that. It's exciting. And when you're watching them race, there's something about going, get up, six, get up, Someone race goes around the turn. Merrill's done that a bunch of times. He's a horse player. But it's not something I've ever done regularly. And of course, when you're talking about the house percentage takeouts for horse betting, the reason there's not a whole lot of professional horse bettors. That said, Marco and Sig do a phenomenal job of breaking it down and giving you an edge. So, but it's a tough sport to beat. It is.
I'm gonna reach out to Sig later today to get him on, hopefully for Thursday's show. Do you ever bet the draft? I've never bet the draft in my life.
So I dabble in draft, and I'm not one of these guys like Matt Josephs or Andy Lang who's been making bets on the draft for the last 2 months. And it's really important to note, if you haven't been making bets on the draft for the last 2 months and you're trying to come in the last 3 days, the markets are well ahead of you. When I did my Sirius show, on Sirius XM channel 204, you hear that on Saturday mornings, I made sure to have my NFL draft guests 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago, as opposed to this last week, because that market is bet heavily, and it's not a liquid enough market to be able to withstand the type of action that comes in the last 72 hours before the draft itself. So I'm not a serious NFL draft bettor, and if you are, you're down already.
Teddy, I bet one game yesterday, Indiana Pacers. I passed in hockey. I passed in baseball. It felt good. It felt good.
It's funny.
Why?
Because I bet one game yesterday only, and then I look, the NFL card, the NBA card was hieroglyphics to me yesterday. I was like, and I'd had a rough little run in the NBA. I'm like, just leave the day alone. The baseball card, I'm like, this game's jumping at me. Let's play it. It was early. It was the Royals. I was done by it was like noon or 12:30, and the game was over, and KC had won. And it was like, what do you do with your day, man? But I went 1-0 yesterday. Yeah. It was bizarre. I'm used to having a little more action than that. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to start The Serpent tonight, new show on Netflix. Steve Merril joining us, everybody. Steve Merril. So Teddy says you bet the horses?
I'll do the Triple Crown races, as Teddy knows. Over the years, I have posted some stuff on the Triple Crown, and one of the reasons is because, as Teddy said, it's a pari-mutuel pool. You do get a lot of square money on these Triple Crown races. The Breeder Cups is probably the best example, so maybe the Triple Crown of the Breeders I'll sometimes put out, because we get what we call overlays from a lot of square money. As you guys know, I like to look at public and square divides in the NFL, college hoops, and other sports. My problem with horse racing, though, the two reasons I don't do it full time, first of all, it's a huge time commitment. It's a daily thing. It's a small market as far as, clients and stuff. It'd be very difficult to release it to clients. And then the biggest problem I have, guys, and what's kept me away from it, I think the key to beating sports betting, other than money management, is shopping for line value. And I don't like the fact I can make a play on a horse and then not get anywhere close to those odds at post time, whereas the whole key to sports betting is locking in that number ahead of time and beating the closing line. So that's really the game changer for me and the reason I don't mess with the horses. But I do think these Triple Crown races present some value. And one other quick takeaway, Prez, the pros that Teddy's talking about, that small percentage that wins, they're not placing win. They're not doing win bet and win place and show bets. They're doing they're wheeling the $1 trifectas, pick sixes, and it's kind of like the fantasy. You got 30,000 entries with the $1 entries, and they win the big jackpot. It's not Joe Blow that puts in one NASCAR lineup or one NBA lineup that day. That once again is how you hit the big paydays. You talk about having discipline. You lose by a nose numerous times on that $30,000 payoff, and then you finally get it. You talk about a long-term grind. That's horse racing.
Steve, I brought you in because, I forgot to do Teddy's big bad bet beat segment. And then Teddy is talking to me in Slack, like, wake up, dude. I got construction going on in the backyard since 8:30 in the morning. I've been up. That's probably why I forgot the bad beat segment. Steve, I want you on. You should hear, Teddy is a master. So let's do the bad beat segment now and then come back to you, take a look at the Suns, Knicks, Jazz, Timberwolves, and the Marlins and Brewers. Teddy, what happened in the world of sports this past weekend?
Sure. Good morning, Prez. Let's do a little bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the book. A recap of what just happened so we can put it in the rearview mirror and focus on what's going on today. And boo, there were some good ones this weekend. Yesterday, the Cavs plus 7.5 against the Wizards. And by good ones, I mean bad ones when it comes to bad beat. If you had Cleveland yesterday, that was just as brutal as it gets. The Cavs plus 7.5, plus 8. They lead by as many as 8 in the fourth quarter. They still lead the game straight up at Washington with under 5 to play. It's tied at 108 with 2:30 left. You don't lose these games at plus 8, except for that there's 11-2 run to close the game. Jared Allen, who had been 7 of 7 from the free throw line, went 0 for 2 with the 2 free throws. Then Raul Neto didn't miss either of his last 2 when the Cavs fouled down 7 with 12 seconds left. Washington wins by 9. Brutal if you had Cleveland yesterday. What about Saturday? The Pistons, plus 4.5, plus 5 at Indiana. They, too, led with under 5 minutes left in the fourth. The Pacers went on a 12-0 run to take control. But the Pistons fighting down 4, 10 seconds left, and the ball, plus 4.5, that's good. Corey Joseph does exactly what you want from the dog. Takes it straight to the hole, creates contact, misses the layup, gets no whistle, and then the Pistons foul one more time. Empty possession at the end. They end up losing by 6. Tough beat for Detroit backers. Let's see. The A's 13-game winning streak came to an end in Baltimore, but that's not the bad beat here. The bad beat's for the under 8 bettors. It's 3-1 in the bottom of the 8th. They get a solo home run, so it's 4-1. And then Baltimore proceeds to score 4 more runs on 5 walks, an error, and an infield single with 2 outs that drove in the last 2 runs. Equals 8-1 final. Brutal beat for under bettors there. What about the Padres last night? They're up 7-1, and the bullpen gives up 2 in the 7th, and then 2 in the 8th, and then 2 more in the 9th, and 1 in the 11th. Oh, goodness. That was tough. No question for that one. And then, of course, the New Jersey Devils, Prez. This one stood out to me in the NHL last night. I even looked it up. They were plus 175 underdogs at Philly. They led the game 3-1 with less than a minute and a half left. You got to cash those plus 175 dog tickets when that happens, except that they allowed 2 goals in 20 seconds and then losing the shootout. Tough beat if you had the plus price. Bad bets. Yes, let's see. They bet the Celtics yesterday. Early start at Charlotte. Lost a bet up to -8. Well, they lost by 21. They were never in it. That was a bad bet. There was lots of Tigers money yesterday. KC -140 down to -115. Tigers got shut out. There was heavy Rangers money against the White Sox. Heavy Rangers money. They were plus $2 at the open, down to plus 160 at the close. And Texas got swept. Bad for the books. No one was laying with the Portland Trailblazers last night. Memphis plus 4.5 down to plus 3. And they won straight up again at Portland. And it was hitters weather in Denver on Sunday. Total bet up from 11.5. Total bet up to 11.5, 12-2 final. The Rockies got there by themselves. Last but not least, the pitchers took the money in Houston. Total bet down to 8, 4-2 final. That too, a bad result for the books. There you have it, Prez. A little recap. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Now, let's bring Mr. Merrill into the equation and find out what we like for tonight.
Steve, before we get into that, Teddy, real quick, New Jersey Devils part of 2 bad beats this weekend. On Saturday, had you have had them plus 1.5 goals, they missed an empty net with 4 seconds left in a 3-2 game. And when they missed the empty net, it landed on Sidney Crosby's stick behind his own net. He shot the puck. It was going into the net. As the clock was winding down, it crossed the line at 0.07 seconds. They even reviewed the goal. It counted. And any plus 1.5 bettors or under bettors lost that bet. It was unbelievable. It was, but nothing was worse than Friday night, brother. Saturday night. I was on the Dallas Stars in regulation. Brian Leonard, he'll be on later. And Koken, they had Dallas, or Marco, they had Dallas in the full game. Dallas outshot Detroit 51-16. 51-16. It went into overtime. 1-1 game. I lost my bet. Anyway, Steve Merrill, let's go straight to it, man. Let's talk about the first game, and then we'll get some promos out. Phoenix Suns versus the New York Knicks. New York Knicks are just awesome to watch. So are the Suns. Should be a fun game. Knicks plus 2, 215 is the total. How are we betting this?
Yeah, we had to talk about this game. The Knicks are quietly on a 12-game point spread covering streak here. They're 10-2 straight up, 12-0 their last 12. Looking at the numbers here, and really remarkable because this is a team Teddy and I have talked a lot about on NBA Tip-Off with Joe Ranieri, 3 p.m. Eastern live today on Monday through Friday on WagerTalk TV. And we've all talked about the Knicks will probably fade at some point. Their season over-under wins was like in the low 20s. They went over that like a month and a half ago. But I've said I'm not going to fade them until I see them start to fade, and they have not faded yet. And it's because they've been playing hard-nosed defense. Suns, meanwhile, a couple weeks ago had 5 more wins than any other team in the league over the previous 2 months, but they have come back down to earth here on this Eastern Conference road trip. They started off when they lost their last home game against San Antonio a few weeks ago as a 12-point favorite. Maybe that was a barometer of things to come here. They barely beat Milwaukee by 1 in overtime. They barely beat Philly by 3. Embiid throws a full-court shot that almost goes into forced overtime. Then they lose to the Celtics by 13. They lose by 9, a game in which they were down by more late yesterday at Brooklyn. And now they play with no rest again tonight. I think this is a tough spot to be laying points with Phoenix, and I have no problem backing the New York team. As I said, it's 10-2 straight up, 12-0 against the spread their last 12, and is the better defensive team here as a home dog rested. I also think it correlates a little bit to the under 215. So if you like the Knicks here plus 2, I think you could probably make an argument under 215 as well. And hard to imagine Phoenix has much left here in this final game of this Eastern Conference road trip. I think they're probably looking towards getting home here tonight.
Well, let me ask you this, because there's 2 roles the Suns have been really good at. They've been really good coming off a loss. I've got them 9-1 against the spread their last 10 tries, and the 10th, the one loss came in the loss yesterday, and I've got them at 10-4 ATS on the second of back-to-back. So Phoenix has actually been really, they've been great off a loss, and they've been good without rest. Does the team-specific element of that concern you, or is it just this is a spot where you think the end of a long road trip, the Suns on the second of back-to-backs, they're just gassed against the Knicks team that has been undervalued for, more than a month now?
Yeah, Teddy, it's funny. As I was actually watching some of that Nets game late yesterday afternoon. And by the way, what a horrendous court. It looked like a gray matrix. I thought I was watching a computer game. I wasn't sure if it wasn't the EA Sports replay, which sometimes is on TV. But that being said, the first thing I thought was, hey, look, a Class A team coming off another loss. One of my favorite angles for decades, especially a Class A team off back-to-back losses. But as you said, that they were coming off a loss against Boston, still couldn't get it done last night. And now they're playing without rest, the end of a road trip. And it's not just that. I feel like the current form is flipping a little bit on the Suns. As I mentioned, they were the best team in the league for a couple months here, late January and February. And now all of a sudden, even their wins have been close. Overtime, Milwaukee, 3-point almost goes to overtime against Philly. Double-digit loss. Should have been a double-digit loss yesterday. I just feel like the tide is turning. Meanwhile, the Knicks are the hottest team in the NBA right now. The tide is not turned there. And we're getting the better defensive team rested as a home dog. So I'm willing to buck those Phoenix team trends. And by the way, one other team trend, as you know, Teddy, when they win, they cover. Otherwise, they lose outright. It's been a remarkable angle with the Suns, including that 12-point favorite outright loss to the Spurs a few weeks ago. And here they're a 2-point favorite tonight. I think the Knicks money line also makes a lot of sense.
Steve Merril, everybody. Steve, guys listening, it's $9 Mondays over at WagerTalk.com. Anyone's plays, $9. I have an NHL play up, $9. 3-pack of NBA, and I'm rolling in NBA. It's $9. But Steve Merril, you got a great promotion going on. If people buy your $9 play, talk to us about it.
Yeah, $9 Monday is a pretty good deal, but I wanted to make it a little bit better for everybody. So I'm going to do a full 7 days for $69. That works out less than $9 per day, not just per play, but that works out about $4 a play probably, as I usually have about 2 a day. But here's the deal. You have to get the $9 best bet today to get that special promo code. A little bit of a tease here on $9 Monday. So get my strongest best bet for Monday, just $9, big discount, and you will get a special promo code in that package for an additional 7 days for just $69 more. And that's all sports, NBA and MLB combined. 7 days for $69 when you get that $9 best bet right now at WagerTalk.com.
Who came up with that idea, dude? That's a good plan. I haven't seen that.
It wasn't
promo.
Me.
I didn't think it was.
Melissa too.
Melissa! Nicely done. Teddy, Steve, let's get to the next game. Minnesota hosting the Utah Jazz. Utah coming off of a loss to that very same team. Short revenge spot, -9.5 is the total, is the side. Are you playing the side of the total here?
Going to look at the side. And as I mentioned earlier, I like Class A teams, off a loss. Going to buck that with Phoenix tonight. We'll see what happens. But Phoenix and Utah, the best 2 records in the NBA. But this is a Class A team. I will play off a loss. And we have a couple extra reasons why. As you mentioned, Prez, first of all, they just lost to the same team, Minnesota, 2 days ago on Saturday as a 12-point home favorite. We now get them on the road as just a 9.5-point favorite. So we're getting a little bit of a discount here in a better spot, in my opinion. I don't think Minnesota's home court's going to be worth much. And both teams had to travel together. So I don't think there's any advantage or disadvantage there. And then the other thing I like to do, guys, is play again, not only to play Class A teams off a loss, an angle I've used for decades here. Bryan Leonard, as well as on Next, has probably used it since the 90s with me, as well as to play against Class D home teams off a win. And we get that with Minnesota as well here. And let's look at the T-Wolves. Yes, they're 3-2 straight up, 60% their last 5. But on the season, they're just 17-44. And more importantly, let's look at what's happened after those recent wins. They beat Miami outright as a dog by 8. They come back and lose by 19 as an 11-point dog to the Clippers, a Class A team. They beat the Kings outright by 14 as a dog. They come back and lose to that exact same team and fail to cover the next game. Now they're beating the Jazz outright as a double-digit dog. I think they come back down to earth here. I think Utah comes back focused. Jazz shot just 40% on Saturday. So it wasn't just a loss. It was a bad effort, which is important as well because I think they'll look to play better here tonight. Little concerned. I know that the Jazz have been weaker on the road this year, especially defensively, but I think against one of the worst teams in the league in a focus spot, I've got no problem playing the best team in the league, laying single digits at -9.5.
So I want to ask you about this one because it seems like you made this case against Phoenix saying, well, the Suns had their run, but now they're a little bit overvalued. Here's Utah. They're 2-5 against the spread their last 7. They're playing without their best player in Donovan Mitchell. And I understand the spot, but from a point spread perspective, is there money to be made with the Jazz down the stretch this season, do you think? Or is Utah one of those teams that, well, the betting markets, after that incredible run they had in December and January, the markets have caught up with them since?
Yeah, I think I actually am on record on one of the NBA tip-off shows after that 17-2 run ended about when they started to zigzag like 5-5 over the next 10. I think I did say actually on one of the shows that blindly play against them, you will make money, I think. And that's definitely going to be the case here as they've been on a bad slide. But tonight, I don't think that's the case. And one other thing I want to point out here, Teddy, off their most recent loss was against the Lakers back about a week ago. They came back and beat them by 14 the next game. So Utah still can be a Class A team when they won, even shorthanded. And the key here is the Knicks have won 10 out of 12 and 12 straight covers. The T-Wolves are still 17-44. So you have to look at the opponent as well. And I think it's a worse spot for Phoenix against a much better opponent. And it's a better spot for Utah because they just played this team, and it's a much weaker opponent. So, that's why they're two good games to talk about. And that's why I actually chose these two, because you're right. It is a little bit of a same angle, different angle in the two, but it just shows why you have to handicap every team, every game on an individual basis. I do think Utah's a stay away team maybe over the next month, but tonight I think it's a good spot for them.
Come on, guys. How good is Steve Merril? Please hit that like button. Show this man some love. He's only getting older. He needs the love. Right, Steve? You need the love, Steve?
I am older than I was yesterday, but I feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're the youngest on the show, so
that is true.
Let's get to baseball, dude. Marlins Brewers, man, Burns. Whoa. Minus 175, 170. This total is 6.5. I cannot play against Milwaukee with him on the mound. What are you doing in this game?
Yeah, a couple interesting things. I mean, first of all, as you mentioned, the line is around minus 170, yet the run line is plus 130. So they're talking about a 200-cent adjustment here because it's a 6.5 total. It's a home game. It shows how it should be a tight, low-scoring game. But I think the under 6.5 is the only way to play it. I've used several games under 6.5. Had a winner the other night. The Yankee-Indian game had one a few Saturdays ago when DeGrom had a 3-0 shutout. These 6.5s cash more times than not. I know 7 is a crucial number. It's a very key number in baseball, especially in the National League. But this is something we see, guys, in both pro basketball with high totals. Talking to John Ryan a few weeks ago, I think at one point this year, the highest totals in the NBA the first few months were 21-7 to the over. Baseball under 6.5s hit. There's a reason the lines are low. There's a reason the lines are high. So obviously we have a great pitching matchup with Rodgers and Burns. A 40 K walk ratio is insane this year. I know how you look at it. I'm not going to try to guess when he has an off game or either one of these guys have an off game. So what I look at is I assume it's two good pitchers. That's priced into the line. So the question is, can the offenses do something about it? And both of these offenses have been inconsistent at best. The Marlins have had some games where they've broken out offensively, but that has not been too much. In fact, 4 of their last 5, they've scored 3 runs or less. They've had single-digit hits in all 5 of those games, so I don't see them lighting it up today. Milwaukee, meanwhile, did put up 10 runs their last 2 games, but they've had 7 hits exact in 4 straight games. So, 6 hits, 4 runs. 6 runs on 7 hits, not that impressive. I think that's a max output. So I think both offenses are slightly below average right now. We get 2 of the best pitchers in the league, 2 of the hottest pitchers. And as I say, I look to play under 6.5. The public actually usually doesn't jump on these. And I would have liked a 7, 6.5 to the under. We're not going to get it. But as long as it stays 6.5, I think we get 6 runs or less in this one.
So the first 5 total is 3 to the under. 3 minus the quarter to the under. Would you look at a first 5 under in this? Because it's 2 starters we clearly want our money on, and 2 bullpens maybe we don't want our money on quite as much. Or is that just total too low?
This is why Teddy covers. It gets paid the big bucks, because I figured you probably would bring that up, Teddy, and that's why I left it out, because I was looking at the first 5 too, and I wanted to actually talk about that. So thank you. So basically, we're getting 5 innings, 3 to the under. We're getting the next 4 innings, 3.5. Obviously, that's a huge discrepancy there based on if all was equal. Obviously, the 2 starting pitchers are better than anything the bullpens will throw out likely. But I like the full game under 6.5. Under 3. Matt Joseph had brought this up sometimes when we did the baseball show last year. If you get 1 inning of 2 runs, basically nothing else can be scored for the next 4.5, innings. And so I can't play an under 3. I can play under a 6.5. Yeah. And the bullpen, Milwaukee's bullpens have been average at best. Miami's actually ERA isn't great, but their WHIP is like 1.09, which is pretty good. So I think the bullpens, especially with the starters going some distance, maybe we get 6 or 7 innings as well. I like the full game. Most of the times with unders, I look towards the first 5 sometimes. But this is a situation where I think the full game has more value, especially with 3 versus 6.5, and the starters maybe could go 6 or 7 innings, which means your bullpen is less of a factor.
Yeah, I remember listening to Wager Talk's own Rob Vino on ESPN Radio. Got to be 20 years ago now, maybe more. And he goes, and his tagline was, "Teams can get to 3 by accident in MLB." It's hard to, that's why the 6.5s to me are always tougher, much tougher than the 7s, because A whole lot of games end 4-3. Prez?
Steve, thanks for joining us, man. Guys, remember, if you buy Steve Merrill's $9 play today, you get the rest of his week for only $69. So check that out over at WagerTalk.com. Steve, you're at the top of your game. Thanks for us, bro.
Thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you soon.
Quick break, everyone. Teddy's big game breakdown, Bryan Leonard, the penalty box segment, and a couple of lives along the way.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's go to the NBA for tonight and look at the Memphis Grizzlies and the Denver Nuggets. I really thought this was an interesting game, and it was also a game where I found quotes for both teams pointing in the same direction. Whether it cashes or not, we don't know. But we do have legit quotes for both squads talking about their offensive capabilities. Right now, again, Denver -4, total 228. It's Memphis on the second of back-to-backs after beating the Blazers twice over the weekend, 130 to 128 on Friday night, and then 120 to 113 yesterday. And now, the final game and it's a successful trip for Memphis. If they lose tonight, they're still happy with what they did. They won 4 of their first 6 on this road trip. They have 9-5 record in the month of April. And Denver's dealing with all kinds of injuries right now. I mean, one last thing for the Grizz, that they're going to Valanciunas, who's been hurt. He missed 3 games with a concussion. He returned yesterday, 21-10. He is expected to go tonight. And of course, I'll have Jaren Jackson on the floor as well. He didn't play yesterday for injury management, but he scored 15 in his first game back and 23 more on Friday night. So a couple of key low post weapons and 2 guys who can foul and maybe get a body in front of Nikola Jokic this evening for Denver. But Denver continues. I mean, the injuries are devastating for this team. When you trade away Gary Harris at the trading deadline, and then you lose Jamal Murray after he tears his left ACL, and now Will Barton, who just hurt his hamstring, and Barton, he plays the wing, the shooting guard or small forward position. Is going to keep him out for the foreseeable future. And now, how much can Facundo Campazzo and PJ Dozier do? Austin Rivers, they just signed him to a 10-day contract. This is a team with a backcourt I'm real happy about right now. And I would think the Grizzlies may have some edges in that regard. Denver's 0-4 against the spread their last 4. The Grizz 9-1 against the spread their last 10 versus opponent with a winning record, and 6-0 against the number. Their last 6 is road dogs. So lots of trends pointing towards Memphis plus the points. I don't know if I love the Grizzlies on the second of back-to-backs, off the 2 wins in Portland on the last game of the road trip. It's one of these spots where you could see perhaps Memphis exhale a little bit. But there's a couple of quotes worth noting. Ja Morant, quote, offensively, we're going to score the ball. So as long as we're locked in on the defensive end and get stops, we're always going to put ourselves in position to win the game. Talking about how confident they are in their offensive acumen. Jokic talking about what they need to do with the injuries that they suffer in the backcourt. Quote, it's on everyone. It's not one person. I think I need to be much better just helping everyone. Everyone needs to step up, be focused, especially on the defensive end. We're going to score. So again, when you read those 2 quotes, it's 2 teams that are very confident on the offensive end, even with the injuries they suffered. Last time these 2 teams met, it was a wild game, double OT that flew over the total, but it was over the total at the end of regulation. No surprise if tonight's game goes over the total by the end of regulation as well. Memphis and Denver over 228. That's the way we're going to lead for Monday. there you have it, Prez. Back to you.
Teddy Covers, everybody. Teddy! Bryan Leonard joining us and quickly becoming my favorite guest. Why? Well, firstly, he's Bryan freaking Leonard. Secondly, we get to speak hockey, and hockey's the greatest thing on the planet. Bri, welcome to Wager Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Last week I was on, and you were all bragging about the number one most profitable handicapper at WagerTalk. What?
I want to say that I want to congratulate you.
Well, I was going to congratulate you.
About how? What? Okay, fine, guys. But Bryan, forget me, dude. Honestly,
no circle jerks. All right, enough.
Hey, Teddy. No one invited you into this conversation.
You don't handicap hockey. You don't get to talk.
Yeah, Teddy. Couldn't even tell us who Patrick frickin' Marleau is. Anyway, check this out, guys. Firstly, Bryan Leonard, the number one handicapper in NHL at WagerTalk.com. Yes, Teddy, the number one. He is literally at 70.93% return. The number two handicapper, me, 70.28% return. Listen, Bryan, we are literally 0.7% away with about, give or take, 10 games left in the season and the playoffs. I'm prepared to do a side wager. Teddy, you want it? Which one of us? And Koken are not far behind. It's going to be a battle to the end, Bri. But you know what? I have no issue losing to you so long as I still keep moving up in my ROI.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been one of those years where just about everybody that handicaps hockey that we know on the site is having a really good year. The year's been so good that Marco D'Angelo and Ralph Michaels, who've never handicapped hockey before, started handicapping hockey and they're winning. So dude, it's been one of those years, and we'll take it.
They have the exact same record, Marco and Ralph, 21-7.
Well, the record doesn't matter because, like I said last week, it doesn't matter. Your net profit is really what you're looking for, and so don't pay a lot of attention when people talk about their record in baseball and hockey. Ask them what their net profit is.
Yeah. Well, they're doing great, man. Ralph is at like 30% return. Marco like 20. Teddy, you wanted to jump in before we get into some hockey and baseball game?
I was just going to make fun. I was going to make so I would actually make, from a betting standpoint, Prez, even though Bryan has the lead, I would make you the favorite to come away with the title, because the last 3 days, if Bryan doesn't see anything, Bryan's not putting something out. And I know you, and your drive to win, your ultimate competitiveness, you find a way to find something. If you were one behind, and Bryan might not. So that's why I make you the chalk.
Well, I have another
leading right now.
I actually have another take on that, Teddy, because I was giving it some thought, because you can be rest assured I want to kick Bryan's ass. My take, Bryan, was simple. You take more dogs and more massive favorites. So you'll put Dallas out at -200 against Detroit and win in overtime. I'll put them out at -130 and lose in regulation. But because you are so high, like with the -200s and with the +120s, 130s, and I'm really sort of stable around -120-ish, I feel like your roller coaster is going to be bigger than mine. So I'm putting money on me. But with that said, Bri, let us both tie at +120% return. Let's get into it, dude. Montreal Canadiens playing tonight against Calgary, +105 for the Canadiens. And I mean, this team, they played so good against Edmonton. And you heard Josh Anderson in the interviews after, and you really felt like this team had really turned a corner. They finally put 4 goals on in the net. It felt like they had a better feeling about themselves, and then they go and lay an absolute stinkeroo against Calgary. This team has to turn it around. What are you doing in this game?
Yeah, I like the Montreal. I sent it to you a couple hours ago at plus 105. Money's coming in against me, and I understand it's now up to 115 in certain places. Everybody's talking. This is the must-win game for Calgary. They're 4 points behind in the division. My look at it is when I look at the remaining schedule, it's probably more important for Montreal to win this game. They're playing their 5th game on the road. They haven't played well on this road trip. They need to get a victory before they head back home. But Calgary, take a look at who Calgary finishes the season with. Their last 5 games, they play Ottawa, and then they play 4 straight against Vancouver. Vancouver is a team that came into the season with playoff aspirations, and now they're out of the playoffs. I happen to think Vancouver finishes the season in last place in this division. So even though people are looking at this a must-win bet on Calgary and they're betting the game up, the game is more important when you look at the remainder of the schedule. For Montreal, they got tougher teams on the schedule than what Calgary has. And to be totally honest, I just don't think Calgary is very good. Montreal's not playing well right now, which is why we're getting this number. But give me Montreal on the season. They're the better team. They're up about 8 goals on the season. And Calgary's played very well against them. I think Montreal comes out with their hair on fire in this one. And I think it's a really good game for the Canadiens.
Yeah, Brian, and you're right. I think Montreal is a better team than Calgary, too, and it's such a great spot to bet them tonight. Me and you are totally on the same page. We are not on the same page about Vancouver, however. You think Ottawa's going to get ahead of them? I don't. And I wouldn't be surprised if Vancouver finds themselves in a race for that final spot. This team has 5 games in hand on Montreal. They're 8 points back. And they have the shitty Calgary Flames at the end of the season. Let's get to this Vancouver-Ottawa game. A third matchup, 1-1 against them. Vancouver 3-1 since they've got back from that COVID situation. How are you betting this game?
Yeah, it's interesting. These 2 teams in the bottom of the division. When I look at my stats, a lot of people will use what has actually happened. Which I call the goals plus or minus per 60. And they see that Vancouver's done better on the season. What I look for, that tells me what's happened in the past. What I look for is expected goals, which tells me what's going to happen in the future. And if you look at expected goals on the season, Ottawa's the better team. Ottawa, the last month, has been the better team. Now, Vancouver, as you mentioned, they've been off that long COVID layoff, so you have to excuse them for that. But Ottawa's playing really good ball, especially at home. Good. I always say good ball when I talk hockey. I apologize for that. They're playing well right now. And Ottawa's playing really well right now. And this is a team playing with their most confidence of the season. When they started the year, they were terrible. They were the worst team in hockey. Anaheim's the worst team in hockey now. In fact, I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams that are worse than Ottawa right now. Detroit. And I will include Vancouver. I think Ottawa's the better team. You're playing at home, and you're getting them at a plus number here. I love Ottawa here. I think this is the better team that nobody's paying any attention to because they were terrible early in the season. They're much better right now.
So let's shift our focus over to MLB and break down one game for tonight. We have the Rockies and the surprising San Francisco Giants, the second place San Francisco Giants. We're ahead of San Diego in the standings. And yet the prevailing trend for both of these teams in early season play, Brian, has been under. San Fran 14-7-1 to the under in their first 22 games. Colorado 13-7-1 to the under in their first 21 games. Should we expect more of the same when they meet up tonight? Or is there a chance for this one to be a higher scoring affair in San Francisco?
These are 2 pitchers I'm looking to play on. I've talked about it for the last couple of weeks on our baseball show with, I'm on in a couple hours here, in an hour or so with Tony Finn. And we've gone in arguments about Austin Gomber. Austin Gomber, his last 7 starts, average game score of 58. He's only had one bad start during that time, under 50, which is an average game score, and that was hosting the Dodgers, the best hitting team in baseball. He had a 44. Other games, 54, 67, 57, 64, 53, 64 against Houston last time out. This is the best pitcher on the Colorado staff. Anthony DeSclafani. You take away when he pitched in Great American Ballpark at Cincinnati, a definite hitter's park, he's been tremendous his career. Now he's pitching in a good pitching park at San Francisco. I know they've made some adjustments to the bullpens and things like that to make it a little bit more of a hitting park. But you got two teams right now going with really good pitchers against offenses that have struggled. The Giants, the last 5 games, they haven't scored more than 5 runs. Colorado went off yesterday against Philadelphia, scoring 12. But that was at home. On the road, they're not a good team, scoring-wise on the road. I like this under here. I think the first 5 may be even better than my full game, but I like the under here in this too. These two teams playing. Love the starters. I think we got 2 good bets here. The under in the game and the under in the first 5.
Teddy, you want to say
Lawrence,
something?
After the third game, you go, my friend.
Teddy,
it's like Brian, the beauty of this is that we've done this show. We've been doing this show since the beginning of football season. All right, we do the same. It's not like the format changes dramatically. We have a guest. I follow the first question. I follow the second question. Third question, we move on. We start the show. We do a little intro. We do bad beats, bad bets, bad for the Bulls.
Shut the hell
Lawrence
up.
Is like, I don't know what he's like. He's in a different show, or he forgets from Friday.
How long have you guys been working together? Is what I asked.
Brian Leonard. Winnipeg, Edmonton. I know we didn't discuss it. I know you didn't send it in. Do you have an opinion on this game?
I prefer Edmonton. I think Winnipeg's a little bit, well, I thought all season that Winnipeg's a little bit overrated. And I mentioned this on the hockey show last time I was on, Prez. Toronto is clear and above the best team in this division. If there's any team that has any chance at all to beat them in the playoffs, it would be Edmonton. And I think Toronto, to make it to the Final Four when they get into winning this division, I think they've got a cakewalk. I think that's a pretty good bet if you're looking for them to win this division.
Oh, yeah. I'd say, well, last I looked, it was like minus 390 or something. Anyway, Brian, we can't thank you enough for joining us, man. You're now a regular, so be ready, man. We're going to try to get you on every Monday or Tuesday. We love having you, and it's going to be a fun ride till the Stanley Cup is hoisted. Anything quickly to promote? Anything to promote?
Yeah, I've got 2 plays in hockey, 1 play in baseball, all different than what we talked here. Give people a big variety. $9 Monday, 29-11 run in hockey. And I did want to point out the first 3 weeks of hockey, I stunk. Now I'm number 1. First 3 weeks of baseball, I have stunk. I went 2-0 yesterday. I expect to be number 1 at the end of the season once again.
And there's some Brian spinach. Get out of here. It's time for the penalty box segment. Okay, guys, start that clock. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. So first off, I want to talk about betting and regulation. I know people in Vegas, I know the sports books don't offer that bet. Well, DraftKings does, FanDuel does, and a whole slew of other places do. And the bottom line is I play a lot of plays in regulation, and a lot of people say to me, but Prez, so many of these games go to overtime. Don't you want the overtime? Yeah, I do. I just don't want the price. I don't want to lay 80 cents more in a 50-50 proposition once overtime starts. If I can't get it done in regulation, I don't deserve to win the bet. I am not laying 80 freaking cents on a 50-50 split. Plus, my record speaks for itself. I know what I'm doing. Let's get into today's game. 3 for you guys. Let's start right off the bat with Winnipeg. Brian said he likes Edmonton, and I get it, man. Edmonton has dominated Winnipeg in this series. I think they're 5-1. 5 of the 6 games have gone under the total of 6. I do expect this game to go under as well, but I like Winnipeg tonight. It's a good spot for them. I also like the Canadians tonight, just like Brian. This Canadian team has lost 2 in a row to Calgary. I do not expect them to lose the third. I was actually surprised by myself that I didn't bet the Canadians in that second game. Good thing I didn't, because they lost. But I like them tonight. This is a huge game. And the last game I like is the Dallas Stars at a very, very small plus money against Carolina. I think Carolina could be the best team in hockey. It's a bad spot for them. They just came off a hard-fought series against Florida. Now they're playing a Dallas team that is playing really good hockey. That's it for me. Teddy, I know you got a show coming up. I know you got a heart out in like 30 seconds. So why, my friend, don't you take us home?
I certainly will. Thank you to Bryan Leonard for joining us. Thank you to Steve Merril. Thanks to my co-host, Lawrence Presman. Thanks to Joe Ranieri behind the scenes. Most importantly, thanks to you guys out there in viewerland. We really appreciate it. All we ask is a like. One little like. Thank you for giving those of you who have a likes already. We really appreciate it. We'll be back again on tomorrow's show. Same time, same channel, noon here on the East Coast, noon there on the East Coast, 9 a.m. here on the left coast here in Vegas. Between now and then, enjoy the games and good luck.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk text club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.